What will be the end of the story? Can the protagonist defeat the dark forces? Where will their love go? Dive into a world of werewolves and witches. Subscribe now. Chapter 19. Mark Reed stared at me, his eyes wide open. "You are alive," he breathed. Before I could respond, he crashed his lips on mine. My eyes widened. Sparks ignites inside of me. The bond between us was indescribable. It felt electrifying yet calm. It felt peaceful yet thunderous at the same time. When I subconsciously part my lips, he takes that as an opportunity to deepen the kiss. His hands held the back of my neck, and then his fingers touched the nape of my neck, and then I feel the bond tenfolds. It was then I realized I have been marked. When Reed danced the kiss and stared right at me, I was completely frozen. I could hear him call my name, but I did not respond. I could not respond. My brain was still trying to put the pieces in place, and then my head feels like it is twirling in circles. I feel my eyelids become heavy. My body weakens. It must have been the rush effect of the bond. Reed stared at me worriedly. He knows I am about to pass out, but before I do, I manage to mutter weakly, "I am fine. I am just tired," and just like that I blacked out. The sound of a heart monitor was the first thing to grace my ears when I opened my eyes. I felt stronger than earlier on, and all the images of what had happened flashes before my eyes. I feel my cheeks heat up. I was indeed acting like a love-struck teenager. My eyes scanned the room. It looked like a typical hospital or clinic bed. I have never been the one lying on the bed. Rather, I have been the one helping the person that was laid on the bed. Life had changed drastically in just a short time. When my eyes fell on Reed lying rather uncomfortably in the small couch, his huge frame distorted in the chair, a smile settled on my face. He stirred in his sleep before his eyes fluttered open like a child. "Hey," he says in his groggly voice as he gathered himself from the chair. He stumbled up to me, trying to wipe the sleep from his eyes. "Hey," I responded when he made it to my side. He was staring at me intensely. "How are you feeling now?" he asked. "I feel good," I responded, but his eyes held me under scrutinizing gaze, searching for a possible lie. "I am fine. I don't think I will be collapsing anymore," I added to reassure him. He sighs in relief. "Okay," he gave a curt nod. "I have been marked," I stated. His eyes widened a bit as though he had been caught in a crime. He stuttered, then he exhaled deeply. "I had to. You were dying, and that was all that came to my mind. I apologize for doing so without your consent." "I understand," I simply replied. Reed marking me had clearly saved my life. I did not hold my father's essence anymore, and in a way it made me feel different. It felt like I had lost a piece of myself. A father I was meant to hate was living indirectly inside of me all this while. "What happened?" "You suddenly fell. I thought all this would have ended when we managed to defeat Williams and his plagued wolves, but we were wrong, it seems. You laid unconscious for a week, and your condition kept on declining each passing day, and then you died." He choked on those two last words, and it broke my heart. It took me falling into that slumber to realize the glaring truth. The truth that Reed was my mate and the moon goddess had chosen to favor me, and Reed had believed in that before, while I tried so hard to convince myself otherwise. "You are really my mate," I stated. "It appears so. Are you happy?" he questioned as he stared at me intensely. I had no idea how I should respond. I am still livid that I had gotten a mate and my mate was a good man, but that did not change the fact that I felt undeserving of him. I breathe. My feeling might be in jumbles, but regardless of that, I was happy in a way. It felt like I have finally had something that was worth living for. He gave a bright smile. He was about to say something else when Fia dashed into the room and Nadine was on her tail. "Mistress," she screamed out of excitement as she hugged me tightly. I winced, causing her to jump off me. "Are you hurt, mistress?" she questioned worriedly. "I am just a bit, sir," I replied. "You look like you had to fight a war and lost," Nadine jokingly said, but those words hit me hard inside my bones. I had indeed fought a war and I had lost. My mother had won. "My mother lives," I announced. Reed looked confused, but Nadine gasped while Fia stared at me with her eyes wide open. She never met my mother, but I had told her stories of her age, how she would have been happy to meet her, how she would have taken better care of her, and it hurt to be wrong. It hurts to think that my righteous mother was actually the villain in the story. She has taken my essence, while my father's essence that was stored inside of me. I do not understand. How is that possible? Lady Ingrid is a werewolf. How can she collect a witch's essence, and how did your father's essence end up inside of you? She questioned eagerly. Nadine met my mother when we was quite old, and she was the one that encouraged the friendship so that I would not have to be alone when she left this world. How did that good woman become evil? It made no sense to me. She consumed my father's essence and killed him, I breathe. My faded mate. White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Nadine screamed. It felt different sitting on the fields and staring into the nature. It felt like I have not done so in over a century. A lot had really happened in just a week. While I struggled in that world, they had also struggled in the physical world trying to bring me back. After I had explained everything to Nadine and the rest, I felt suffocated in that room. Reed noticed it and pulled me out for a walk. I was grateful for that. He quietly led me by the hand to the forest behind the clinic. When I felt a bit tired, we decided to stop, and I sat on the grass just staring at everything before me. Images of the good times I spent with my mother flashed through my head, and each memory broke me rather than filling me with joy. Reed held me close to him, and I do not realize it until a teardrop ran down my cheeks and that I was crying. Reed held me tightly as I wailed against his chest, staining his shirt with my tears. But he did not seem to mind, rather he held me even tighter. The last time I had cried like this was when my supposed dead mother had passed away the first time. I felt like my world had been taken away from me, and that was what fueled my desperation to take my own life, because I felt like I had no purpose of living in this world. It was the curse of being someone like me, and now I feared that I would suffer the same fate when Reed would pass on. My entire existence was indeed a curse. I am here, Reed said, and his words pierced deep into my heart as quick as a bullet. I will always be here, he added, as though he knew exactly what I was thinking. Maybe he could feel my internal turmoil of the situation at hand. Thank you, I muttered as I stopped crying. I pulled myself away from him gently. His face appeared hurt by my actions. I did not want to be away from him, nor was I rejecting him. I just did not know how to feel or what to feel. Still, I did something that stunned the both of us. I placed a kiss on his lips. Chapter 20, War is Coming. My mother has been quiet. Too quiet for my liking. 3 days has passed since my encounter with her, yet she has made no appearance. I know she was coming, but I had expected her to have come by now. Now that she had my father's full essence in her control. I was still without magic. It was as though I was not a witch in the first place. I had tried even the simplest of spells, yet none of them worked. Reed was always by my side. That was this constant fear in his eyes, like he feared something bad was going to happen just like I did, but I think Reed feared what was going to happen to me. Maybe my mother assumes I was dead. I should have been dead. The moment the essence was taken out of me, because it had been my life source in all my entire existence. War was coming, and I was worried that I would not be able to help, and it was a war that would be caused by my own flesh and blood. The coronation of Alpha Caden in Luna, Louisiana was today. It was to be held in the palace. Reed and I, as well as Fia and Nadine, took the journey 2 days ago. I have never attended a coronation in my lifetime. I have never seen the need to, and now there was a need. My mother was plotting to kill the present monarch, and I would be the one to bear the bad news. The palace halls were filled with elfis and delegates of several packs that had come to witness the ceremony. Alpha Caden looked strong standing in his regalia outfit, so did Luna, Louisiana, but I could not miss the fright in her eyes. That uncertainty if the problems of her life have finally come to an end. I wished that would be true, but it wouldn't be, because I was not strong enough to defeat my mother. Reed held my hands tightly as though trying to calm me down as we watched the proceedings. He knew what was coming. He knew that blood of his kind would be spilled, all because of greed and a quest of power. I give you King Caden and Queen Louisiana. The high priest declared, and the entire halls erupted into cheers and applause. Then we all knelt down to show reverence. I stayed in the palace grounds along with my friends after the ceremony and the banquet was completed. 2 days is already passed, and now I would be given an audience with the king. I walked into the throne room, hand in hand with Reed. I would say our relationship was stable for now, but there was still a lot of things to look forward to. We had to get to know each other properly, and Reed was not still marked. King Caden looked stunned to see us so close to each other. Reed had once informed him that I was his mate, but I had denied it that time, and now I was accepting it. King Caden, Queen Louisiana, I bowed along with Reed, Fia, and Nadine. Nadine was a bit overwhelmed by the whole thing. She had never been in a werewolf royal palace before, surrounded by this many wolves. And she was only doing so because of me, to help me get my magic back. More like learn magic from the beginning again. Thankfully, I had managed to move a few centimeters from its initial position, but it would take a whole more than that to defeat my mother. Priestess Caden gave a curt nod. I am delighted that you are well. I had imagined you would be the one to crown me since you helped me in saving my mate. I have forever in your debt, he added. Louisiana gave a soft smile, her fingers fidgeting in her dress. It would take a while for her to get used to the whole royal new life. Even in her dress, her belly was well protruded. She seemed to be around half the term now. I am thankful for your help as well, she responded softly. I smiled at her. It was my pleasure. That is why I hate that I have to be the one to tell you that evil is coming, I breathed. Louisiana's eyes widened. Her eyes immediately glistened with tears. It was exactly as I feared. The fright in her eyes was well evident now. She immediately held the hand of her mate for emotional support. What do you mean? Caden questioned sternly. His alpha presence was on full on, just like a true alpha, always ready to defend. War is coming, my king, and my mother would be the bearer of the war. She has grievances with the werewolves, and she was the one behind Williams. I think she wants the throne, I revealed. Your mother was a werewolf. How is it possible that she survived all these years? He was clearly unconvinced by my revelation, and I understood that. I would have been the same if I had not witnessed my mother trying to drain life out of me. She was a werewolf, but not anymore. She has become a witch, I answered. Caden chuckled. A werewolf turning into a witch? It had to be in my lifetime. Priest, I need you to explain how a werewolf turns into a witch, of course. I left the king's presence after explaining the situation at hand. After revealing how my good mother has turned into an evil being, but I have to remain in the palace grounds. If war was coming, the king had demanded my help, though I doubt I would be of any help at the moment. I was willing to try. My father's last words continually echoing in my mind. Don't give up easily, and I was trying my best not to. I have never been in a situation where I've been rendered completely useless, but the moon goddess gave me a bit of hope, and I guess that hope was carrying me on. As soon as I left the king's presence, I made my way to the training grounds along with my people. If I hoped to truly fight against my mother and win this time, I had to continue my practice. Althea, are you sure about this? Nadine yelled from across the field. I had instructed her to attack me with a strong magic. Maybe the reason why my magic was still docile was because my essence has never been in any serious danger. This had to work. It had to. Reed was sharing a worried gaze with Fia, but neither of them spoke up. Their words would not even stop me. This was not time to dwell on our emotions. I am sure. I yelled back. Nadine paused for a second or two. She appeared to be contemplating the whole thing, but she eventually gave a curt nod. I took my stance, waiting for her attack. If I was my former self, I should be able to create a shield to defend myself from her attack and even mirror her attack back at her easily, but I know this time it will not be that easy. Nadine fired me with her magic, and as I expected, I could not block it, and it swept me off the ground high, and I landed with a loud thud. Reed and Fia were about to rush over to me as I laid in the ground, wincing in pain, but I stopped them by waving my hand. I got up from the ground and took my stance once more. I am afraid you might hurt yourself. Nadine sounded very worried. I am fine, I responded back again. I demanded, and she fired at me again, and the same thing happened. I finally understood how pure werewolves and humans felt when they struggled to get something. Having to be knocked down many times was not a good feeling. Beads of sweat formed around my forehead and my entire face and neck. I know I now looked out of place, but I wasn't going to give up, though I felt incredibly weak. I think we should stop. Reed suggested. No. I yelled, we cannot stop. I refused to let my mother when I said as I got up from the end time again I added as I took my stance once more. My father's words echoed in my ears and when Nadine fired at me. I finally feel it. I finally feel my essence inside of me, and then it was as though it bursted out of me and a shock wave was released out of me and straight at Nadine causing her to the thrown feet of the ground and when she landed, she coughed out in blood. I immediately rushed over to her, pulling her into my laps. She chuckles that is the hardest I have ever been hit. You did it. Chapter 21, The First Attack. News came to the palace today that a pack had been attacked and some of the pack members had been abducted. Though King Caden was skeptical about the relationship of the attack and my mother's threat, I knew it was her and this was the first attack. In another 2 days there was another attack and more wolves have been taken from their pack. The palace was in uproar as several alphas were on the edge of the entire matter and King Caden was trying his possible best to calm them down. I know he was feeling the pressure at hand. It was much easier to be an alpha than to be a king. Caden was a good alpha and I have no doubt that he would be a good king, but he was still new to the whole thing. It had only been days since he had been crowned. In these past days I have been trying to get back to that world, but it was proving fruitless. Nadine was also helping, and even though I have somehow managed to control my own essence, it was still impossible. My mother had completely dominated that world and even the Order could not yet access the world, and it worried me about how strong my mother had gotten. Nadine had spoken to the Order about the Black Coven, but there was still nothing they could do. The Black Coven fully supported my mother, and even though I had told them otherwise, they would not believe me. I was never a real witch. I was never part of a coven. They saw me as the wolves, but my mother was the righteous one. She was the one that tore than her wolf nature and embraced the witches as her people to fight for the supposed justice of my father. Crazy. Completely crazy. I never thought I would be the one to say this, but I think the witches have failed miserably. Nadine's side. I thought we had the strongest witches. How is it possible that your mother was able to take control of that world with just one coven backing her? What does she plan on using that world for? She has gotten the essence from you. It does not make any sense. We were currently in the field practicing my magic while Thea and Reed were helping around the palace grounds. Your father is still in that world, is he not? I questioned. Yes, she responded with a frown. I am sorry, Nadine, I responded softly. The guilt ate me deep into my bones that I was partially to be blamed for my mother's sin. It is not your fault, Althea. Lady Ingrid is simply deranged, she responded. Give me a small smile. Can I speak with you, priestess? I hear Queen Louisiana voice from behind. I stood up immediately from the ground and faced her. How can I be of help to you? I asked. Her hands rubbed her belly through her dress, a mother protective of her offspring. Are you sure this war is coming? I know you are a priestess and you know these things, but is it possible that everything might be false? She questioned. I could hear the trembles in her voice. It was certain that she was tired of her life constantly being in shambles and disarray. I am certain, I responded straightforwardly. There was no need to sugarcoat the glaring truth. How can I help? Caden doesn't want me to be involved in the whole process. He thinks it will keep me safe, she asked, surprising me. I never would have imagined she would ask that. I walked closer to her. Your mate cares for you, and you should cherish that. You have been through so much pain. I do not know how you can help but stay strong. I placed my hands on her belly and feel the intensity of the pup inside of her. Her child was an alpha and he was strong. You have to be strong for your child. He's a strong one as well. It is a boy. She asked in amazement. Yes. A strong boy, I smiled at her. She smiled back. Thank you, she greeted. I heard you have a mate. And you're just like Williams. Do you think he would have had a mate of his own like I have mine? I completed. I do not know if he would have. My kind was never meant to, but I have been blessed by the moon goddess, I answered with a soft smile once more. Then you should cherish that as well, she responded. She gave a curt nod and she excused herself. You should listen to her, you know. That child speaks the truth. Nadine was the one to talk as she gets up from the ground. You have been blessed truly, Althea, and even though there might be war coming, you should not let yourself miss out on things you should have, she added. My mind immediately went to the kiss I had planted on Reed's lips when I woke up. The same kiss I have been ignoring to talk about with Reed, and Reed was letting me have my own way. I was indeed blessed. Is your cheeks heating up? Nadine said out of nowhere, and my eyes widened. My palms immediately clasped my cheeks. Of course not, I responded swiftly, maybe too swiftly, causing Nadine to erupt into a fit of laughter. Althea, he is not just an ordinary man. He is your mate, and he has become your chosen, has he not? I think so, I responded sheepishly. Then, do not waste a second more, she smiled brightly. I was being crazy standing in front of Reed's bedroom in the middle of the night knocking at his bedroom door, but maybe it was time for me to start doing crazy things and start doing things that make me feel happy. I do not know how many times I had knocked, but when Reed finally opened the door and he was standing there with sleep in his eyes and shirtless, it seemed worth it. I had truly been blessed. Althea, what are you doing here? Are you not feeling okay? He said in a sloppy voice, and it made me feel a little bit bad that I had been the one to disturb his sleep, but it was too late to turn back now. I apologize for disturbing your rest. Can I come in? He stepped away from the door, giving me entrance to the room, and I entered. My heart was beating fast against my chest. I had never expected that I would feel this way for any man in my entire existence, but now I was. Althea, what is going on? Are you sure you are okay? Reed said worriedly as he shut the door behind him. He walked up to me, standing face to face. My eyes were on his and his were on mine. I am fine, I stuttered, causing him to blink his eyes in curiosity. I closed my eyes for exhaling deeply before opening them once more, and then I did again. I kissed him, but this time it was more than just a peck. Reed was surprised for a second, but he soon caught on, and it turned into a full-blown kiss. He picked me up from the ground like a child, and he took me over to the bed, and when my back touched the soft mattress was when we broke the kiss. What is going on? What are we doing? He sounded confused and excited at the same time. I chuckled. I want you, I breathed. Are you sure? I nodded before saying in words, I am sure. Okay. I want you to mark me first, he said, surprising me. Are you sure? It was my own turn to ask. I know that he had marked me without my permission, but it was what he felt was the only way to save me at that time, and I understood that, but I wanted him to have a choice in this. If he marked me and we made it, our bond would be forever sealed. Definitely, he breathed. Chapter 22, Another Encounter. The grass was the greenest I had ever seen. The field stretched out endlessly. Wildflowers danced in the wind. I could smell the fragrance of the earth mingling with the sweet scent of a freshly cut grass. The sun was shining at its brightest, yet I could not feel the heat. It was perfect, and he was there lying beside of me, smiling in his heavenly gloom. My fingers caressed his cheeks and his chuckles. You stare at me like I am some god, his words dripped out like honey. I felt a sudden calmness in my spirit, and I smiled. Maybe you are, I joked. He laughed out loud this time, the sound vibrating against his chest, and strangely it felt like time stood still and I could feel, and he read in slow motion. It was truly beautiful. You are the one that has lived for 500 years. I am barely even up to 30, he pointed out. He sat up and I did the same. You hurt me. I faked a wince. You do not have to remind me that I am an old woman. He chuckles and placed a feathery kiss on my lips. You are a beautiful old woman, and you are mine. I smiled. I got up from the grass and I pulled him up. Come on. Let's see how well you can race this old lady, I teased, and just as those words fell from my lips, I dashed off. That is cheating. I could hear him yell out before he runs after me. I chuckled as we ran through the field and into the woods. I feel a whoosh beside me, and soon enough Reed overtakes me, but I was not ready to give up just that easily. I pressed on, but Reed was incredibly fast. Maybe too fast that I cannot keep up, and after trying my best, I stopped. Okay. Fine, you win, I called out, gathering my breath, but there was no response from Reed. Could it be that he did not stop? Reed. I called out and waited for like seconds. I am coming back. Seems like I won, I heard him say, and I breathed out in relief, but that relief was short-lived after it felt like I had waited for minutes, yet he was nowhere in sight. Reed. I called out again, but this time desperately, and there was no response. I walked further into the woods calling out to him, but there was no response. My breath was staggered and my fingers twitched. Something was wrong. Something was incredibly wrong. I was completely exhausted and frustrated when I hear the leaves twitched around me. Hey. Who is there? I asked, but no response, but the twitching continued. Reed. It is definitely not funny. I am clearly too old for games, I added. You are never too old for me. I hear that familiar voice from behind me, and when I turned back it was her. My mother. What are you doing here? What have you done with Reed? I questioned desperately. I had already taken up my fighting stance. Be calm, child. I mean you no harm, at least not anymore. I am grateful that you survived. Maybe things are really working in a favor. It would have been quite devastating for a mother to bury her own child. She smiled brightly like a mother would, but all I could see behind those eyes of hers was evil and treachery. Silence. I will not ask you again. What have you done with Reed? Nothing, dear. Simply nothing. Your little wolf should be fine wherever he is. She still held up that smile, but how did you survive it, though? You should be dead. Like you had wished, I spat out in disgust, but my mind was still on Reed. He was just here right now. This woman in front of me was clearly lying. She must have heard him. Like I said before, no mother ever wishes to bury her offspring. I am truly sorry for trying to kill you in the past, but desperate times do call for desperate measures. You are willing to sacrifice your child for your greed, I spat. She chuckles. Greed. Greed. You act like everyone is not actually greedy, my dear child. Everyone always wish for something they can never have, but I am the only one simply strong and bold enough to take it rather than well in cowardice. I am not greedy like you. I would never be, I responded boldly. That is what you think. I have watched you. You know, for a long time. I have seen you wish and beg the moon goddess for a mate. It was quite pathetic to watch, though. You wetting the ground with your tears and desperation for a second half of your soul. What makes you think your soul is not complete as it is? But you were simply greedy for more because you were envious of those around you. But you were simply a coward. Too weak to take was you simply wanted. It is with great pride that I would say that you'd not take that rebuke from me. Your father was the weak one. No, he was not weak. He simply loved you, and you betrayed his love all for power. I yelled out angrily. You act like I am incapable of love, my dear. But I did love you. I nurtured you all those years despite the fact that you had in your body what I wanted. I still loved you. I chuckled. You called that love. You were only bearing with me because you could not get what I had inside of me. Because you did not have the power to. And you are right. I did not have the power to take the essence out of you, so I gave up. It was the first time in my entire existence I had chosen to give up on something. But when I died and this world brought me back, I finally understood my purpose. I finally understood that it was my power to take, and I should not have given up in the first place, she said calmly. You are a monster. I yelled out. It hurt me deeply to hear those words come out of my mother's mouth. It was almost like she was not the one I once knew inhabiting her body. It was like her soul was different. I am not a monster, dear. I am your mother, and even though I have been weak, I have watched you for years. I have stopped you from trying to end your life when you sought it out so much. Even the universe was working in my favor because it understood the tears of a mother that had to give up her child, she said, and I gawked at her, dumbfounded. You have clearly lost your mind. Perhaps. But Althea, you are my child, and I would prefer you join me rather than fight against me. I want us to be together. We were always meant to be together. I want you to fight by my side and share this glory with me. Never. I yelled out and I pounced on her. Just as thought I had landed and hooked her, she faded out of my grasp. I know you will come to your senses really soon, and you will choose to do the right thing, which is to fight by my side and conquer this world together. Her voice came from behind me, and I snapped my head in her direction. I will never join you. I spat and ran after her to attack. You will, she smirked, and she disappeared, and I screamed out in frustration, and then I felt a hand touch me by my side, and it was Reed, but it was different. We were no longer in the woods. We were in the bedroom. It was all a dream. A bad dream. Are you okay, Althea? Reed asked worriedly. You were screaming in your sleep. I blinked. I am fine. Those words came out almost like a whisper. I was still a bit shaken up. How was that all a dream? It was real. It felt so real. Reed disappeared, but he was here now. I pulled him into my body tightly. Hey, it is okay. I am here. He caressed my bare back. It was that I realized that I was naked. That the events of last night rushed into my head like a fast-moving train. Was it a bad dream? Or was it that world again? He asked. A bad dream, I muttered. He releases me from the hug and I immediately feel self-conscious that I used my hands to cover my exposed breast. He chuckles. I guess you're fine now. Since you are worried about that. Oh, I am in your room, I responded sheepishly. That was clearly not what I should have said, but everything that happened last night was replaying in my mind, even overshadowing the nightmare I just had. That I did not know what to say. Why, yeah. You do remember what happened last night, don't you? He sounded worried and almost panicky. Yes, of course, I swiftly responded. He exhaled a sign of relief. Did I hurt you? I was referring to the mark I had given him. I should be asking that, Althea. You or he stuttered. His eyes went down to the sheets and my eyes followed his gaze. It was stained with blood. I knew why he stuttered. I have never been touched, I completed his words. You have lived for that long and never. I did not think I would be able to do that, he blurted out, and he immediately slapped his mouth shut. He clearly did not mean to say that. It is okay if you have been with other women. I do not blame you. He smiled weakly. Thank you for this gift and honor. He placed a kiss on my temple and I immediately feel a calm sensation run through my body. His lips lingered there for a while and he was forced to pull away when a knock came to the door. He sighed in frustration before getting off the bed. His naked back was facing me and I could not help but stare at his body. I could feel my body heating up out of desire and I know he felt it too when he paused for a second. It was like he wanted to turn back to face me, but he didn't when the knock on the door came again. He already put on a short he picked up from the floor and went straight to the door, opening it a bit. Reed, had you seen the priestess? It was a masculine voice asking. There has been another attack. It was the pack close to the palace. We fear she has been taken. She is fine, I hear Reed respond. So you know where she is at the moment? She is not in her room and her handmaiden cannot find her anywhere, the man added. She is fine, Shawnee breathed. Then there was silence in the arrow. I hear the man say. He must have realized that I was with Reed. And for the first time in my life, I felt that thing called embarrassment, and it was not that I was embarrassed to be with Reed. We were mates after all. Instead, it was like I had been caught in an awkward situation with my lover. And then the door closed. There has been another attack, Reed said as he walked back to the bed. I heard, I responded sheepishly like a teenage child. Your maiden is worried. She thinks you have been abducted, he added. I heard that as well. He chuckles. Chapter 23, Attack of a Plagued Wolf. This is outrageous. This is the third attack in 1 week. Yet nothing has been done. Rather, we talking about a werewolf turning into a witch, Councilman Bailey yelled at the top of his voice, banging his hand on the table before him. The entire council room was in an uproar. Silence, Councilman Bailey. The priestess does not lie on this matter, King Caden warned. It was obvious that he was fed up with Councilman Bailey's tantrum. I do not say that she lies, but are we to believe her stories? It has never been heard of a werewolf becoming a witch. Our ancestors never spoke of such atrocities, Bailey defended. And our ancestors has never met the kinds like the priestess here getting a mate. Times has clearly changed. It is better we wake up to that reality now, Caden spoke up, causing the entire room to gasp in surprise. Murmuring filled the room. It is true. I am the Reed and I am the maid of Priestess Althea. I was surprised by Reed making a stance to defend my oath. I was thankful, but it was clear that this councilman was trying to look for faults in my words. And we are to believe this as well. There is no proof of that. She might have used her powers to manipulate the bond. Another councilman spoke up. Councilman Bailey chuckles. My fingers twitched. Few weeks ago I was just like them. I had also thought that the bond between Reed and I had been manipulated by a witch. People really do not believe what they do not see, and the bond between Reed and I could not be seen by them. They would not understand. They seem to have forgotten that we are not fools, neither are we children. Councilman Bailey spat. Enough, Councilman Bailey. Another councilman spoke up. He seemed to have more upper hand than this Bailey of a man. Bailey snorted. I am only trying to make reasoning here. Our people are being attacked, but I am certain that it is not a hand of a werewolf turned witch. We have to investigate this matter thoroughly and not dwell on cock and bull stories. You seem to have forgotten your position, Councilman Bailey. Perhaps if I had ripped out your throat when you once spoke out of turn, I would not have to deal with you right now. Caden spat. It was obvious that he was trying his best to bear with the man. He was king now, and it was expected of him to not act on impulse at every given opportunity, and that I understood. Bailey gulped. In fear, my king. It is not possible that a werewolf would corrupt her soul. Like all werewolves are pure of souls. Nadine spoke up a little louder than she should have. The entire room turned their gaze on her. Bailey's face contorted into a frown. You should not be here, witch. He spat in disgust. And you should learn to use your brain. Your people are in grave danger, yet you are concerned about the righteousness of your kind. Wolfman, evil dwells in all kinds of creatures, Nadine fired back. I spared her glance to hold her peace, and she frowned, but she became silent. Max Spiny, my faded mate. White splashed around me, and the wound spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Bailey wind Caden sighs. Have you seen Bailey? She is here to help. With all due respect, my king, I cannot sit in the same place as this vile creatures. For all we know, she and her people might have plotted this all. He stopped abruptly, and he released a cough. Black blood burst out of mouth, stunning everyone in the council room. His eyes began turning black and red, and he had already begun rolling. The councilmen around him scurried up to their feet, watching him intensely. The council room was now in disarray as confusion sets in as Bailey bones began to break in a disfiguring manner. Althea, is that? Nadine spoke up. Yes, he is plagued. I completed. Step away from him. This man is plagued. The councilmen scurried away from him immediately. Bailey was almost fully transformed. Caden was already on his feet, standing defensively in front of his mate. Don't worry. I will handle this, I said to the king as I jumped away from where I was standing to the plagued wolf. Before he is able to fully transform, I placed my hand on head, ready to dispel the magic, though it will cost him his life. There was never a way to save a plagued wolf. But before I could, he surprised me by throwing me across the room, landing painfully at the ground. He growled loudly. He is fully transformed. Reed rushed over to me immediately. Are you fine? He asked worriedly. Let us handle this, he added. Caden was ready to pounce on him, but I stopped them. No. I have to do this. If I cannot take down a single plagued wolf, how do I hope to defeat my mother? This was all her doing. And I know this one would be stronger than the one Williams created. The plagued wolf held his gaze on me. It was obvious what he was here for. He was here for me and me alone, and anyone that will come in his way would suffer a painful death. I stood up from the ground angrily. I waved my hand in the air, summoning my magic, and just like that, I held the plagued wolf in his throat, strangling him. He was growling in pain while I continued my chanting. I pulled his body towards me, and just in a twinkle of an eye, I snapped his neck. His body dropped down lifeless, and most of the wolves in the room gasped. But I was not done. A plagued wolf is never fully dead until the witch behind him is killed or the body is set on fire. I immediately severed the head from the body, setting the body on fire with my magic. I held on to the head. This was my mother's doing, and I know that she would have a message for me. I closed my eyes and chanted some spells, and after some while everything in the room disappeared and my mother appeared out of the shadows, adorned in a black dress, her hair cascading down her back. Bailey was a bit of a talkative, but he was quite easy to manipulate. The fool could not resist the warmth of a young-looking body, though he has a mate. Yet he spoke of righteousness of the wolves. How pathetic, she chuckled. You need to end this right this minute. This is madness, mother, I yelled. She laughed smatically. And this, you say? Oh, my dear child. This is only the beginning. She caresses my cheeks. I jumped away from her, feeling disgusted by her touch, and she fakes a wince. You know, I still extend my hand to you. Join me and let's take this world together. We can rule side by side. I have no desire in ruling the world, I replied. Then you are a fool. But I understand. Not everyone is destined and born for greatness. It is a shame that you did not take after me in that. It is like your father's genes has poisoned your blood, she said with a sinister smile. And you were born for this. I gritted in between my teeth. Absolutely. Mad Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wheels spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Otherwise, I would not have come this far. You are hurting people. Those missing pack members, what did you do to them? Where you are keeping them, I demanded. TSK, TSK, TSK. Be calm, my child. You bother yourself too much. I simply gave them power and they loved it, she said nonchalantly. You are purposely snatching families from families and turning them into monsters for your own greed. I yelled out in anger. And you think my family was not snatched away from me? My family tossed me out when they found out I was with child and that the alpha son had rejected me. They had lived cowardly lives, but at that moment they acted so boldly. How pathetic. I am your mother, Althea, and believe it or not, I have also sacrificed for you as well. Yes, by trying to kill me, I responded, I gave you Fia. You should be grateful. She yelled out in annoyance. I gawked at her in confusion. What did she mean by that? How could she have given me Fia? I found Fia myself as a child. What do you mean by that? I am not in the mood for your games. I said. Neither am I. But that doesn't change the fact that Fia is your half-sister and I gave her to you, she revealed, and immediately it felt like a bucket of water had been poured on me. What? Chapter 24, another story. What do you mean by that? I am not in the mood for your games. I said. Neither am I. But that doesn't change the fact that Fia is your half-sister and I gave her to you, she revealed, and immediately it felt like a bucket of water had been poured on me. Mad Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wheels spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. What? I stammered, my mind struggling to process the shocking revelation. The room suddenly felt suffocating, and my heart pounded in my chest. I looked at my mother, searching her face for any sign that she was joking, but her expression remained serious. You're telling me that Fia is my half-sister. I managed to utter, my voice barely above a whisper. So you see, Althea, I am not so wicked after all, am I? She said. I do not believe you. I found her. She was a child crying in the midst of her dead parents. I will not listen to any more of your lies and deceit, I stated boldly. This was all her sick games. Was she trying to manipulate me by using Fia? What if I was the one that placed her there, in the midst of those dead bodies, and made you find her? You know I had been watching for a while. It was quite easy to plan the whole thing, she said, smiling brightly. That is a bloody lie. I screamed, but she still held out her strong smile. Did you kill those people? Did you kill Fia's parents? Of course I didn't. How could I kill her parent when I am her parent? I am her mother, but well. I did kill her father, though. So ironically how similar you both stories her. I killed yours and her killed hers, but the difference is that our father deserved it and maybe yours didn't. You are evil. I spat in disgust. Fia's father, Anthony, was equally a terrible man, my dear child. You see, I actually wanted to give everything up for that man. I had actually fallen in love with him, and for a while I had even given up on coming after you and getting my powers back. But Anthony ruined it all, you know. What did he do? I asked eagerly, cutting her off. Oh, darling girl, you did not have to cut me off. I have got all the time to tell you the entire story, she responded with a smirk. 24 or 24, I presume. I met Anthony badly injured on a wolf territory. He had been attacked by Rouge de wolves, and by the goodness in my heart, I decided to help him out. I took him back to my tent and nursed him, and when he woke up he was quite startled to see me. And he got attracted to me. You know, there is something about this face of mine that seemed to drive a few of this males crazy. Nevertheless, he was quite dashing. As my mother continued her twisted tale, I couldn't help but feel a mix of revulsion and curiosity. Her words hung in the air, each one dragging me deeper into the dark secrets of my past. He was attracted to you, I repeated, my voice filled with disbelief. It was difficult to fathom that my mother, the woman standing before me, had successfully managed to deceive yet another man. Oh, yes, she replied, a smug smile playing on her lips. Anthony was drawn to me like a moth to a flame. But little did he know the fire that burned within me. Her words sent a chill down my spine. What happened after you nursed him back to health? I probed, my voice with both apprehension and a strange desire to uncover the truth. She chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to echo with a tinge of bitterness. We had our moments, Althea. He even took me to his pack and we were actually planning to going through with the mating ceremony. So you see, my dear, I was really giving this world a chance. This people a chance. Then what happened since you claimed to have fallen in love with him? I asked. Anthony ruined it all. You see, he had lost his mate several years ago before we met, and he told me that I was a blessing from the goddess. I lied that I too was mateless. My own mate had died in a battle with the Rouges, but to think of it, I was not completely lying. I do not think my first mate would have survived all those centuries. His bones would all be dust by now, she replied, her voice filled with a mix of anger and satisfaction. A week to the planned mating ceremony, a young woman came into the pack seeking refuge, and Anthony discovered that he was drawn towards her like a mate. Wouldn't he realize that she was the one the goddess had given him? She was his blessing, and I was nothing but a piece of trash to him. He tried to talk to me to quietly let him go. She chuckled at the end of her statement. What a fool. He thought I was the fool. So I ripped his hearts out while I caressed my belly, but I did him one final good thing while he breathed his last. I told him that I was carrying his child and he should rest well in peace, she concluded with a smile on her face. How could you? I yelled. Oh, my dear. I took matters into my own hands. I will not sit and watch the goddess play those little games of hers, she said, her eyes gleaming with a fierce determination. And the Nile played with fire, and I did well to show him the consequences of his actions, the pain and disappointment he had caused me. And in the end, I made sure he paid for his sins. Her words hung heavy in the air, the weight of her confession pressing down on me. The man who had fathered Fia, my supposed half-sister, was not only dead but had met a grisly fate at the hands of my own mother. This was truly a nightmare. As I looked at the woman who stood before me, I realized that she was not my mother. This was not the woman that had raised and loved me. This was a different woman, a complex figure driven by her own desires and thirst for power. I left the pack just as soon as I killed Anthony, when it was that I realized that a simple, quiet life was not for me. I was destined for greater things than just playing mate with an ungrateful wolf, she said at first. I did not think to give Fia up, but it was pathetic watching you stay alone, and the universe seemed to be working in my favor. I stumbled upon a group of wolves fighting outside pack grounds. The same path you passed each day to get your herbs, and I took it upon myself to hasten the fight and kill them, and I carefully placed Fia among them, wiping out our memory of me with the little magic I could conjure, and continued on my way, and like you know, the rest is history, she ended. Does Fia know? Does she know that you are her mother? Does she know you killed her father just because you could not have him to yourself? I asked eagerly. All this while Fia has been with me, serving me like a master despite my own desires. If she has known all this while, why did she remain silent? Why did she not tell me? She knows now, she revealed, and my heart broke. While you slept like a damsel, or rather while you were almost dying, I took my time to visit her, I assure you. It was quite difficult to convince her that I was her mother. She was so quick to warn me to stay away from you, so eager to defend you from me. So I took a leverage from her. You see, Fia has found her mate, a young boy that works in the castle, and another for her to come with me. I took him. It was not so hard for her to come with me after that. Do not worry, Althea. I will take good care of her. And when you finally choose to join me, we will have a beautiful reunion, but for now farewell. And with those she disappeared and I found my way back to the council room. Chapter 25. Or is here she knows now, she revealed, and my heart broke. While you slept like a damsel, or rather while you were almost dying, I took my time to visit her, I assure you. It was quite difficult to convince her that I was her mother. She was so quick to warn me to stay away from you, so eager to defend you from me. So I took a leverage from her. You see, Fia has found her mate, a young boy that works in the castle, and another for her to come with me. I took him. It was not so hard for her to come with me after that. Do not worry, Althea. I will take good care of her. And when you finally choose to join me, we will have a beautiful reunion, but for now farewell. And with those she disappeared and I found my way back to the council room. Althea, what happened? Nadine asks. The entire room had their gazes on me. I straightened my back as I dropped the head of the plagued wolf on the ground, setting it on fire with my magic. It was my mother, I revealed, but that was something we both knew. My mind was in complete haze of my own mother's revelation. Fia was in fact my sister, and she has been possibly abducted by my mother. Where is Fia? I asked in haste. I knew she could not join us in the hall because she claimed she had errands to run. I knew that all these was not her scene. I should have persuaded her to accompany me. But now she was gone and she was at the mercy of our mother. She should be in a room or somewhere around the castle helping out, I presume. What is going on? Nadine questions agitated lie. She is not. My mother has taken her, I gritted in between my teeth. Listen. War is coming. The war is here. My mother is coming. Whether you choose to believe it or not. There was a plagued wolf in our midst, meaning it was so easy for my mother to get into the inner circle and manipulate anyone that she wanted. You can sit here and contemplate whether I speak the truth or not, but that does not change the real glaring truth, and that is that my mother plans on destroying your homes and take control of your lives, I announced to the council room. Now is not the time for jokes and bickering amongst each other. What do you suggest me do? Caden asked. I breathed. Prepare for war. I will take my leave now. And I excused myself from the wall. I dashed down the halls to Fia's room. Her room was just as it was. Only she was not there. She was really gone. A piece of paper was laid on our bed and I picked it up to read. Dear mistress. It has always been your wish that I be mated as a werewolf. Shouldn't I found him? I found him, and he seems very nice, and I am certain that you would approve of him. Nevertheless, I have no doubt that the goddess have made a mistake. I always knew we had a bond. You and I. I could feel the connection between us. She says we are sisters. Our mother. I wanted it to be a lie, but at the same time it gladdens my heart that we are sisters. I feel incredibly lucky. I would get to share in your burdens of having a vile woman as a mother. You will always be my mother. My dear mistress, but for now I am leaving to protect what I've come to cherish dearly. I know war is coming and I am certain that you will win. Thank you for all the times we shared together. From Thea. What did she mean that you two are sisters? Nadine asked, completely stunned. She had been reading the letter with me. The paper slid from my grasp to the floor. We are sisters. We share the same evil as a mother. She gave her to me of a child so that she could have the time to execute all her plans. I responded, feeling completely defeated. I have failed, Thea. I have failed in protecting her. All this while I have been caught up in myself, that I have failed to see the truth before me. Thea found her mate and I had no idea. Yet she was meant to be under my care. What? Nadine gasped. How is that possible? She murdered her father as well, I revealed. My mother is going to use the plagued wolves to attack us, which is the reason why she has been attacking Pax, I revealed. Another council meeting was called later again in the evening. This time the Alphas and Lunas appeared serious, then seemed to finally understand the gravity of the situation at hand. It saddens me to say, but the missing pack members would have been turned to plagued wolves. Plagued wolves are incredibly strong and difficult to kill. They are faster and very aggressive, as you witnessed earlier today. The best way to defeat plagued wolves is to kill the witch behind it, which is Lady Ingrid. But I fear the battle is quite greater than that. Lady Ingrid has sought out support from a witch clan called the Black Coven. They are strong and they are driven by revenge. I will seek help from my covenant if they decide to join the fight. We will try our best to handle the witches while you guys will hold off the plagued wolves until Althea is able to defeat Lady Ingrid, Nadine explained. They all nodded in understanding. The dagger used in killing Williams is what can really defeat my mother. I was told that it was in your possession, my king, I said to King Caden. He nodded. He pulled out the dagger from his pouch in his trousers and I walked up to him and took it from him. I stared at the dagger intensely. Once upon a time, I had searched for this dagger, the last of its kind, and now it was in my hands but for a different purpose. Thank you, I added. When would this war come? Caden asked. I planned for us to attack my mother at her hideout. It is best that way rather than her coming to us. It would give us a bit of an upper hand, I responded. This will be a difficult task. She is incredibly strong and it will be difficult to find her, but we should be ready starting from today. Call your pack warriors and try to hide away your remaining pack members. That would not be so easy to do. There are thousands of wolves, females and children. It will be difficult for So to safeguard them while the pack warriors fight an alpha from one of the packs spoke up. I never said it would easy, but there has never been anything easy about war, but you have to try. I have a feeling my mother would not wish to attack pack by pack. She would come directly for the throne. It is the quickest way to secure what she is going after, which is ruling the werewolves world, I answered. A frown settled on Caden's face while Louisiana looked extremely tensed. My mother would be going after them in particular. She will try to take them out and no one would be strong enough to stop her. At that point then the werewolf world would have no choice but to bow down to her wishes. To sum it all up, the king and queen lives are in danger, and if they fall your world would have no choice but to submit to her, I added. I will try to find her whereabouts in 3 days' time. It is a short time, but I cannot risk her attacking the palace before then. That is if she does not attack before then. My mother would seek a reaction from me. She has taken someone dear to me and I will use that opportunity to get the information I need. Be vigilant from now on and be ready for anything. I ended. Stay tuned for more Werewolf Witch adventures. Subscribe.